Yeah, so we're live now.
Yeah.
Hey, hi everyone.
my
Pleasure to have you on board for our first pack meetup. It's been a bit, we are discovering Zoom, so I'm sorry about that. It's a lot of issues is appearing. As you may know, we are, as you can see here, we are the 1st of April. I have a couple of fish. My kids took time to prepare for today, so I'm pretty excited. So this is also one of the advantage of working from home is having your kids close to you. So today I'm really excited to have you with us, and we have a pretty great people connected today. We have, for those who didn't receive the invites, we have Leandro Melendez from here. How are you, Leandro?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you for sure.
Excellent.
We have Stijn In LockDown. This is a new name of Stijn Schepers.
Yeah,
Stijn,
that's my situation. So I am in lockdown in Belgium. I'm not liking it, but I'm very happy to be here tonight.
Awesome. We have our good friend Andy, Andreas Grabner, and live from Linz.
Prost, I'm here. All good here. Even I'm still not freaking out about the lockdown, so I'm still sane. I think so, at least. I don't know.
Yeah. Well, that's the question.
We have Twan as well. Twan will probably connect in a few seconds.
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, Twan, you're here.
Yeah, I'm here. I'm also in a lockdown, but we call it an intelligent lockdown because it's sort of a lockdown, but not quite.
So we will have to elaborate everything.
Yeah.
That because I'm pretty interested by that concept about intelligent lockdown. Otherwise, as you can see, our Mark is the only one having the privileges today to share his videos and working environments. I think if I was locked down somewhere, I would definitely want to be locked down in Mark's working space.
Yeah, but we'll have to find someone to play the drums.
Oh, let's call Brian.
Yeah, all right. So that's just so we can work that out. Be good. And a bass player.
That's your studio.
Yeah.
That's cool. Thanks everyone to be here. So this session has been recorded. So if anyone doesn't want to be part of the recording, or anyone has a problem about it, let us know. We will make sure to stop the recording or avoid publishing it publicly. So it's a meetup. Please, so you're connected as a webinar. So I cannot promote you. I don't know why today. So it's a bit a disaster, but I'm not able to promote you to share your webcam today. We'll arrange that for the next edition. That's always the first release is always a minimal MVP version of the meetup, as we can see. So if you want to interact, drop your questions at the Q&A. I can see Andy's face. Cool. And I can see Leandro's.
Oh my God, I'm online.
Yeah, here we can start. So today, as you may know, everyone is working from home, and we are all blocked home, working remotely from various countries. I think they announced 3.5 billion people working from home. So I'm pretty excited about that number.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure that if I work and I download and my kids watching Netflix, I'm pretty sure that my internet connection is pretty consumed by the network of all the family. So I wasn't surprised that we have issues today related to performance. So today I'm gonna ask my old friends from the pack their insights about performance problems related to working from home, if they have observed anything. And I know that to start this meetup, I'd like to first of all remind, for those who's not aware, that Andy made an awesome blog about that topic. I think it was a few days ago, or at least 1 week ago. So if you didn't have the chance to read it, I would recommend to read it. So I will start this roundtable and discussion by asking Andy about his thoughts about performance problems that could happen with the lockdown.
Well, as you mentioned the blog, I have to say thanks for the people that actually gave me all the stories for the blog. It was one customer out of Germany. It's a company, they have a system, I'm not allowed to give the name, but at least a story, right? So a system that is used internally by the call center employees and also their external agents. And they were fearing if everybody's going home and working from home, that will have an impact on the performance of the agents, or maybe they're changing their behavior if the VPN is not good enough. And so they were basically ensuring that through monitoring that there was no change in behavior actually. So the call center folks that had to then work from home had the same reliable connection, the same call frequency, they could handle all the same load. So that was great. But they were worried about it, that there would be an impact because of performance related issues. So thanks to Thomas who gave me that story. The other story came from our own Dynatrace internal team. They are obviously, now with all the engineers working from home, right? And they still need to crunch out a lot of code and are relying on things like Jenkins, Bitbucket, Kubernetes. So our engineering productivity team and our infrastructure team, they all make sure that all these systems are just as accessible and performant as if the engineers would sit at home. Because if you are slowed down by that, right, it slows down your flow, and you're frustrated, and you don't want to have frustrated engineers. So I think from a monitoring perspective and performance perspective, it's on the one side it was interesting to hear that customer story on their systems that they're using to run their business, but then also from an engineering organization that it's as important that all these tools work correctly and reliable, because otherwise your engineering teams cannot be productive anymore. And I thought that was good.
I think that I had several requests on the last weeks before the lockdown, official lockdown, and now is the VPN. I mean, there's a big constraints related to if you have 2 employees working VPN, it's good, but if you start to have 40,000 or 100,000, 200,000 people connect to that VPN, I guess it's another challenge. Do you guys, from a Dynatrace perspective, measure anything related to that could be helpful to report, or to that could something that any indicators that will help the organization that is using VPN, that they are encountering or facing problems related to their connection?
Well, I think the question would probably best be answered by the folks actually in our team that are doing all this monitoring of our infrastructure. So yes, we do monitor obviously all the different network connections and especially VPN throughput. So that's just standard. But I think some best practices, and this came out day one on the internal Slack channels. A lot of folks that have not worked from home before, because some have done before the lockdown, right? Sometimes you work from home, that you, for instance, don't route all of your traffic over the VPN. This doesn't make sense. Just route the traffic to the internal systems over the VPN, and don't overload it with regular browsing content. Or if you do, we're doing Office 365, so there's no need to go via the VPN to download your emails. I think that was a lesson learned, to make sure that only the traffic that needs to go over the VPN really goes over the VPN. But from a monitoring perspective, it's really your classical infrastructure monitoring metrics. But it's not my expertise, to be honest with you. So Henrik, I will reach out to the folks that actually helped me with the blog to come up with a more definitive answer on that.
And so if you say that if I'm launching any torrent, I should remove it from the
yeah, that would be very smart. Yeah. It's like when I moved back from the States to Europe, and because I lived there for a couple of years, I obviously enjoyed the VPN connection so that I can fake that I'm in the States and still watch my shows from over there. But I've stopped doing that because that would be not very cool.
But I started to do that now this week. Because my kids were basically they did all the Netflix catalog in 2 days. No, I'm just joking, but it's impossible. But so I took a VPN connections and I subscribed to Disney Plus. So now they're watching Disney Plus. So thanks to VPN. So for those who wants to watch Disney Plus, where you're not allowed in that country, make sure to take the right VPN provider. All right, so thanks Andy for your feedback. So I still recommend you guys to watch read the blog. It makes a lot of total sense. What about Stijn? Stijn, I saw your post yesterday or 2 days ago with a video about starting with the network consumptions related to the lockdown. Do you have any insights to share with us today?
Yeah, I do, because it's also an expertise that's not really I'm into application performance, and I've been monitoring our applications, and they are actually performing even better than normally, because what we see online is that the traffic is changing. And what I mean there is that some websites or some applications might get way more traffic than other applications because it's an exceptional situation. So for the client that I'm working at, I do see way less traffic than I normally would see in this period of the year, which is already strange to see, but we do take lessons out of that. It's good to get exceptions to understand what's happening. But where we do see struggles, it's with like case managers or people that normally work in an office and taking phones and working and not being IT people working at home. That's a different story, because they are not IT people. And then what you see is we refer to the last mile, that it's not always your VPN connection, but it's really what you're doing at home and how you have set up your home PC that is causing lots of issues, because we did get complaints from some of the people using those systems while the application is running smoothly. So it's actually indeed seeing how people work at home. And for us, it might be obvious what you said. Okay, I have 5 kids. I don't, but luckily I don't. But say that you have 5 kids, and they're all streaming and downloading, and then you are working at home, but you're not an IT guy. Yeah, then it's not working, but you don't know why. And then you have a Wi-Fi connection, but maybe it would be better to actually use your Ethernet connection and don't do it with Wi-Fi. So there are some basic things that people don't know that are now working from home that can be very painful. And I think that the last mile, and that's why I posted that video, because for lots of people, actually giving them some tips so they can work from home if they're not IT related would be really useful.
Yeah, but for instance, in France, school has been closed. I mean, it's like most of the countries. So now it's the motivations of the parents that make schools to the kids, but they will still have some websites, but that were never used by normal school days, because it's obviously you get the homeworks and most of the lessons from the teacher, so you don't connect to those websites. And the other day I was working, and my kids came to my office here, to my desktop, and say, "Hey, are you downloading stuff, or are you consuming the network?"
Yeah, it's the other way around, eh?
No, not now. I'm working, you know, and basically it's just all the kids, all the parents connecting at 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. to that platform to get exercises or homework. So basically, the government has equipped with I would say digital transformations with websites and stuff like this, but they never thought about all the parents and all the kids connected to that platform. So basically, we are facing performance problems. So between 9 and 12, it's super slow. It's almost impossible to reach the content. So it's a good listen. I mean, I think I'm pretty excited to work in performance world now with those constraints, because it's just give us a lot of work for the next coming month.
We also see this, I'm sure you have it in every country, it's the same, but every day, I think at 8 here and at 3 o'clock in the afternoon, they're updating the statistics on the people that are infected and tested. And we've set up synthetic monitors to all these different government websites. Also in the US, we did it for the different states, just to monitor what the performance is. And you can immediately see every time when there's a news conference or every time at 8 o'clock in the morning when the stats are updated, people know they want to know how many people have been infected overnight, right? And then they go on the website and it slows down. So we observe the same thing across the board. Yeah.
You can imagine that for sure. Another thing that I'd like to share with you guys is at least in Europe, I don't know in the US, but Netflix has announced last week that the network bandwidth that they will have will be reduced. So we don't see much from a human eye because they have a lot of compression mechanism, which gives at least good quality for us. But they announced that they're going to reduce the bandwidth, and I know that Netflix is a heavy big customers of Amazon, so I think it's more Amazon that is facing to those big network consumptions than Netflix. I think probably Amazon is asking their big customers to reduce the network consumptions to avoid any saturations on specific data centers. In fact, the other day, because I was building stuff on Amazon, and I was surprised to see Amazon not responding as it used to, because usually Amazon is super responsive. So do you have any feedback on that, you guys? Twan?
Yeah,
maybe?
I have heard some complaints about people about Azure, that they are shifting even their customer service more towards governments and companies which are working on the COVID crisis. So if you have like a normal IT firm or a bank, you don't have any privileges now at the customer support. So there's a huge queue to tickets. That's what I heard.
And so we have most of the European PAC members that just. So what about Mark and Leandro? Did you have any feedback from the other side of the continent, from the US, the big US continent?
I will let Mark go on first.
Everything's gone to hell in a handbasket, basically. You know, this working from home stuff, all the technology works great, but you know, humans don't know how to work from home. I mean, I've had some insane meetings with people who, like, when you're in the office, you can stay on topic. You can have a conversation. All right, this is how we have to update the router firmware, and then we have to do this, and like we're planning an outage, and we have to make sure this is going to work. And their thoughts are on, well, what about the switch and the thing of that? What switch? No one's going to touch a switch. That has nothing to do. So I'm thinking people are just gone nuts. And then in the middle of a meeting, they're like, I'm sorry, I have to go help the little old lady across the street who needs some groceries and some hand sanitizer, and there's no hand sanitizer. So you just pour isopropyl alcohol all over her. And this has nothing to do with performance engineering, but it is a very disruptive thing, I think, for most people. Anyway, Leandro, how are things down there? I mean, he's as close to the other America as we have in the Perfbytes world.
Yeah, I'm experiencing some bottlenecks as well, if you want to call it in that way. I wanted also to talk a little bit about those that I prepared some little things that wanted to talk that I have been seeing and experiencing. First of all, as an example, what you were mentioning earlier, VPNs being hammered lately that they were not prepared for. My girlfriend, we're sharing office right now, and
that is not your girlfriend right next to you though right now, right? That's
it's level. No.
It looks like a ghost.
She declined respectfully to join this meeting and be on camera.
Your Performo is sitting right next to you on the wall.
Yeah, I like to keep good company. No, okay. Okay. Enough Performo.
No, I like that.
Yeah, but I wanted to add a little bit more on that. It will come after, but wanted to talk first on this VPN consumption and problems that I have been noticing. Often she's like, hey, the internet sucks, it's really bad. And I pull up my speed meter and like, it's good at home. Probably your VPN is your company. Her company's VPN is being hacked. It's dying, it's falling in pieces. And of course, her company was not prepared. This construction and crane company that they are mostly used to be on the field or in offices, and definitely they didn't prevent or saw this coming, and it's something that is taking over them. Some other that I wanted to mention that I noticed, Wall Street is getting hammered lately, not only by people at home having more time to do trading and all, but as well because the stock market is tanking. It's like a double effect that is happening right now on bottlenecks for the stock market. I don't know, especially if you heard about certain company that had big time issues trying to do all the trading when people started to be stuck, and at the same time to be a little bit scared or worried trying to move their funds, ETFs, or all that they had. The site keeps having and reporting issues, and I hope that they keep up the work there, because performance is becoming a trouble for them. Another one that I noticed, I don't know if you heard of this Zoom thing that is being used by everybody, not only for conferences and doing webinars and beers and cafes. Schools are using them as well. And they had to implement and had some mechanisms that was reported, if I remember well, by Angie Jones, that they had to implement wait rooms before they let in anyone randomly, because some trolls and evil people were sharing nudes and weird stuff in some of those rooms.
Yep.
But it's the same in terms of performance. If you just let everyone in at once and not share the cameras and limit them a little bit when it's needed, well, that's a good mitigation that I thought it was worthy of mention. And last, I think big news and news sites are being hammered as well. We are all at home, a bit worried, checking on everything and trying to learn as much as possible on what is happening. That's another one that I noticed here in Mexico. We're getting a bit hammered as well. The government is trying to pull up some more horsepower on those online news sites. But I noticed that as well in the States is bringing on some trouble. And especially when some people claim to have the highest ratings because they're famous. No, it's because it's something really important. And some of these places do not have enough bandwidth to couple up with all that. And well, if I can give a recommendation, as you already did, I would say stay at home, stay calm, try to stay healthy, and take care. Take care of yourselves. Do not overload Disney Plus, VPNs, or anything else. You can, as much as possible. But I know sometimes we need to get entertained or do something inside rather than learn how to do silly videos and presentations, right?
I'm impressed by the level of expertise that you have in OBS. I'm a beginner, so I'm learning.
Now you can tell what this lockdown is doing to some people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was impressive.
It was. I was almost watching the news from the French TV with the old animation. Wow, that was
yeah.
Again, it's coming out.
Yeah.
We have to make a call together so you can learn all those. I love that.
I would like to offer, at least from my full-time job working in sort of the payment space, online space, and point of sale, you can imagine there's been a drastic change in human behavior in terms of purchasing, where a lot of it is moved to online. And the nature of our little company, a lot of the swiping at the point of sale has changed from being the swiping or the EMV touchless kind of card to being like personal shoppers that have a different account set up. So the payment flow is different, even though it still ends up kind of processing through us to end up at the processor on the back end. So we've seen this sort of shift in how the traffic is routed, but people are still trying to buy toilet paper and hand sanitizer, and now shifting deliveries, getting food delivered or using delivery services. Your Uber Eats or your DoorDash or Instacart are some of these modern companies, popular companies that are doing this. But even like old school grocery stores still have personal shoppers and people that will do that, will go out and do that. And so we've seen some shift in the payment infrastructure. The back-end routing has also changed as well. So just the patterns of how the transactions are executed, the workload changes. The core transactions from a database perspective are still fairly consistent from a performance perspective, but how you have to sustain a session and do different things is slightly different from an application standpoint. To me, it's a great time to observe, hey, what's my bias in terms of this is the way the system module, system components are going to get called in a certain pattern. Have I thought of other patterns that maybe, have different session times, use different memory, latch onto memory longer? And so that's been really kind of an interesting thing, just to dig through the logs. If you have a tool like Dynatrace, you can dig through an amazing, endless amount of information and visualize it. But yeah, so digging through and learning, hey, this might be the new norm. This might be new business opportunities where, hey, we had no idea somebody would try to hook a point that for Instacart or delivery at a co-op, they have a dedicated point of sale and they're manually typing in your credit card number manually. It's not even through a third party. It's just wow, that's crazy. Or they're doing other EFT transactions, like you say, or ACH transactions. So that's been kind of an eye opener for me. I mean, aside from there being generally people not going out to lunch and swiping at a point of sale, but they're doing other patterns because people still eating lunch. People are still ordering groceries and they're just ordering stuff and getting them differently in the landscape for sure.
So Mark, I think it's great that
what you said, the volume of cashless transaction in general, even for the few people that still manages to go out.
Yeah.
And here's your, I would be like, oh, yes, you can keep it.
Yeah, keep the change. I don't want it. Or they have a little hand sprayer there where they're, thank you for the money. Thank you. I'll put my pesos through the washer here.
All these Purell white pesos.
Well, there's a whole new business right there. It's just like money laundering. No, sorry, that's a totally different business. But actually laundering your money, I mean, that may be an actual business. But Stijn, you were going to say?
Yeah, no, I think it was great what you were saying, because I think for IT folks now it's a time to learn. And we get 3 lessons in production of exceptional situations that we never tested for.
Yeah.
And the same with Andreas. It's now the time for people to use Dynatrace and APM tooling and not sit at home, but actually observe, to use the word observe again. Mm-hmm. Even if you don't have problems, try to understand what's happening. And even if it's not happening again, at least you will see things that you will never see again. And it's an exceptional situation. It's difficult, but it's also very it's a kind of a present for an IT folks to learn. And that's why I like your point. It's what we need to observe applications, learn from it, and act when problems occur, but also learn for indeed how are business transactions happening, and learn from it and take lessons for the future. So really exciting times in that perspective.
See, it feels like forced chaos engineering, right?
Yeah, indeed.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah, you see also in a lot of different apps, for instance, school apps or for university. It's for them, performance was a topic which hopefully we could do some testing, and now it's like, oh shit, we never did performance testing, and now it's the biggest topic. So you see a lot of new customers trying to say, well, we have these performance issues, could you help us? So it's again, it's really a shame that this is happening, but it's also a time to learn and spread the word about performance and the importance about doing also these stupid amount of stress testing, which normally people are like, well, that's just for fun to break the server. No, it's there for a reason.
But yeah, but if I look at what happens in France here, they have a website to share the homework and stuff that kids need to do. Mm-hmm. And they built the website, and they were assuming that they would have that amount of concurrent users, so they tested, and they validated it. They went to production, everyone was fine, and in normal situation, nothing happens. Now, everyone is going there. And it's another one, so to the other one I was referring to previously. But the story is, even the teachers, they know that the platform is not going to handle load. So it means that some people within the idea of the government says, don't ask the parents or the children to connect to that website because he's not going to handle it. So try to handle that directly through emails or through sending it to another website or whatever. So they are starting to be creative. So they're going outside of the normal route that they imagine initially, because they know that if everyone connects to that, it's just going to be breaking their website. So it's pretty funny to see how they manage the crisis and how they know that their system won't handle the load. So it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool to see from a performance engineer. It's pretty funny to see how they manage the situation. If you're not part of the IT, if you're not part of the performance world, you don't see that. You just react like a normal parents. But I think it's pretty funny.
But what you see as well, which is funny, my kids tried to log on to the online system the first day and it didn't work. But the second, the third, the fourth, it works better and better. So the motivation of the students is lacking as well. So, so it tells a lot about people as well. Oh, can you please do that exercise? Yes, we do. We all do. And then the second day, a few people do, and then no one does. So it also says that homeschooling is really challenging, not only to do it the first time, but to continue doing it.
Yeah.
And I struggle with that as well. So I think that lots of people have bigger worries nowadays, and if the performance is a little bit worse, they do accept it easier because it's not the end of the world for lots of things they're doing.
Yeah.
So lots of people have bigger issues.
Yeah. I think that another thing I'm observing is sometimes I'll say the politics or relationships in a company or in an organization will sway who gets the new gear, who gets upgrades, who gets, the squeaky wheel. The CEO used to be a DBA, and so the data team has all these wonderful new gadgets, but, app team, front-end team, VPN, infrastructure team, they're like, we're the poor kids on the blue. Please, sir, could I have another router? Could I have a little router for my rack here, sir, please? Just one more router, maybe a tiny switch here for the office. Sorry, that's my best English accent. I could Oliver Twist. But you get what I'm saying? Like, suddenly, I think right now I'm seeing other parts of the infrastructure. We talk about VPN. We talk about terminal server or remote desktop type capabilities. Anything where you need to remotely access through Citrix terminal servers. There's a few others out there that I think are now, but you see them in the mobile space too. Where we haven't had enough licenses to do that. And so all of a sudden they're like, we never knew we needed it, even though somebody was screaming the whole time, we really need this, guys. And I'm thinking there's also a change in that corporate policy. If you remember a few years ago, a CEO by the name of Marissa Mayer was at Yahoo, and Yahoo was doing a bunch of agile work. And they said, no more working from home. Everyone has to be in the office. And it was like a company policy. And this is in Silicon Valley where, trust me, traffic-wise, everybody worked from home. Like if you didn't have to leave, you stayed home. So I think it's interesting to see companies not given a choice, but suddenly like the database isn't getting overwhelmed anymore and doesn't need the resources. But the other mobile, the reach, the employees trying to access stuff in the cloud, we didn't go to the cloud soon enough. We didn't get that figured out. And then the sad part, you were mentioning Zoom, Stijn, you were talking about kids and at the schools, like Henrik, like the idea that you've got people hacking in Zoom. This is a big shout out to Zoom to get their security game together. Hackers like it when we're off our game, when everything's kind of a little shaked up, and they can exploit things. So if you have to take the performance hat off a little bit and put the security hat on, because you know how to do a Wireshark trace and you're a packet hound, you can figure out vulnerabilities and sort of plug some of those things in the infrastructure. At least I know I'm always on the chat with my guys from the security standpoint.
Yeah, we had some major sites were DDoSed, also major government sites. During, yeah, and also delivery sites when the supermarkets were all empty. The first 2 or 3 days, it was crazy. Everybody was ordering food, and then they were like, "Well, let's shut down the Uber Eats app or the delivery ones." So it's also a security item because everybody's sort of in a panic state to get things up and keep things up and running.
It is.
We had a strange thing because we at my office they upgraded the VPN, so we don't have any major issues. We had one on the first day, but it was really strange because things started to fall over, and what was happening is there were new VPN IP addresses which weren't allowed in the firewalls from all my load generators. So I was working like half a day on figuring out what's the issue, and then, oh shit, I got a new VPN, and then so you got some new issues.
Hey, talking about VPN, there's actually a question that came in. I'm not sure if you guys see it in the Q&A.
Yeah.
Jay was asking if somebody of us has been involved in helping large companies to improve capacity of VPN applications.
Unfortunately, no. I have a lot of requests on that topic. I would say that it's a shame that we don't support VPN testing, to be honest. I think it will be a gold mile technology at this stage. But we have Citrix, guys. That's my promotion.
Yeah. What I usually see is that network performance is done by a different team. It's not just the performance engineer. It's really the ops guys or the network guys who are doing the core network performance testing with very specialized tools.
But just sorry to interrupt, but it's all a little bit also here about scalability, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's nothing. If it's an application or VPN, it's no difference at all. But the fact that we need it now, and the company I work with, we did a week before. They invested a lot of time and money to scale, and we did tests of forcing people to work from home, even if they hadn't. And luckily they did, and that went smoothly. But it's the same with other stuff. If you have a week and you say, "Oh, we will be all right," and you don't test, yeah, then you're a little bit in trouble when you really need it. And solving it in a reactive way, and for most companies it was already reactive. But if you have a week to go, at least you can do it in a phased approach, like the client did where I'm working at. So for me, it's no different story than a different technology, but doing scalability testing and looking at the technology to see how it scales.
Yeah, it's something, as many mentioned, it's a scenario that I think no one prevented or saw it coming, and it's just a wild card of different utilization patterns, not only on VPNs, but affecting for good and for bad. I wanted to add a little bit of some of other patterns that we were observing, as an example, with employees not going to the office all the time or being there. The first thing that you get there is you turn on your computer, you unlock it and plug it to the network. Many of these organizations have OneDrive sharing, synchronizing mechanisms that we used to see that it's 6 a.m., 7 a.m., 8 a.m., 9 a.m., and the activity on those synchronizations started to happen right away. And nowadays, it's not a spike, it's almost even all the time because everybody's at home. On one hand, stressing the VPN, but on the other,
it's flattening it out.
A slower utilization in the synchronization devices, SharePoint, all of this. The Microsoft Suite probably, I'm guessing, might have an easier time lately because everybody is like 24/7 distributing the load rather than just as soon as I log in at 9 a.m., everything starts syncing and working. I don't know,
But that also assumes that we are no longer working 9 to 5, but we just, since we work from home, we have a virtual 24-hour time zone. Right? That's the next big challenge.
Well, working is one, but the other one is that you leave your computer on your home desk, dining table, whatever, and it's turned on all the time. It syncs. That is not like just at 9 a.m. I'm not suggesting that many of us are working weird hours now that we are at home, but both things can be.
To the Andy, you had responded to Jay's question there, and I threw out an idea on that as well about hardware specific VPNs. Back in the day, there's some manufacturers, Cisco obviously is probably the most well-known one. F5 also does this from a network infrastructure, but when it comes to the setup and teardown of VPN tunnels, or even VPN over HTTPS, I mean, it's just the same capabilities. There's that encryption, encoding, decoding capability that if you have a hardware specific, like an ASIC, a hardware specific module that can speed that up, you'll have VPN performance that can scale like crazy. And I'm actually seeing a few stories out there of folks that are just taking, say, an open source OpenVPN, and they're just throwing it on a VM and launching it into the cloud and hoping for the best. And there's still a tremendous amount of CPU overhead. And you pay for that. And I don't know if there's a serverless VPN where they're actually using ASICs or like an HSM type of card. I think mostly in EC2 and Amazon, you have to get a dedicated host to do those kinds of things for an encryption card or decryption card for functioning. But yeah, people are learning really quickly. It's like, wow, we shouldn't have thrown away that old Cisco gear.
No, but that's if you are able to. If you're already in the cloud, if you're on-prem, you're also facing hardware limitations because a switch can handle a certain amount of data and then it's full. It needs to be another one.
Yeah.
So I'd like to also invite. I see that there was 2 persons connected that were part of the pack, and
cool.
They are quite silent because they didn't have the options to change with us. I'm referring to Wilson Marr, which is here.
Wilson Marr, oh Lord.
Marr, you
hey guys, how you doing?
guy.
Really enjoyed our discussion.
Yeah,
You should
Wilson.
definitely share your webcam, Wilson. And also we have another pack member that was with us remotely due to the coronavirus again. Eduardo Vorani from Moviri, live from Milano. Eduardo, how are you?
Hello guys, can you hear me?
Yep, sure.
Yep.
Yeah, sorry, I don't have the webcam right now. I was just lurking your session. I'm listening very carefully.
Good to have you on board. And Wilson, it's good to have you aboard. How are you? Did you? I mean, you told me last time we met that you are working from New York now. So I guess now are still in New York? Did you went back to your family? How is it? How is the situation going on for you?
Yeah. Actually, sorry, I don't know if the question was for me, Eduardo.
No, I was the question was directly for Wilson, and then I will ask.
Oh, Wilson. Hi, Wilson.
Okay.
Sorry.
How you doing? Yeah, I'm sorry. For some reason, I click the button to start video, and it doesn't happen here. But anyway, thanks for asking. Yeah, actually, my wife was very mad at me because several years ago we had bought this farm in remote Montana for exactly this situation. So who's laughing now, right? But anyway, so my wife was really mad at me because I have an apartment in New York because I've been doing a lot of work with the McKinsey folks over in New York, and so I delayed because I wanted to see the last session of Frozen on Broadway before I left. So literally I caught the last session or the last performance of Frozen before they closed it all down.
There you go.
But yeah, luckily I didn't catch anything on the plane or in the middle of all those people. But anyway, it's just fun. Everything's just basically normal. So as far as I know, this particular county that we're in doesn't have any infections that we know of. So I'm knocking on wood. But in this situation, is just because there's none reported doesn't mean at all that everybody is not already infected, because of the testing that has been really slow to roll out here in America, and also the lack of testing that because they're rationing those testing kits, a lot of people are not being tested, even though they're going to the hospital with fever and so forth, right? So they're basically
I think you should just stay home and infect just yourselves.
Yep.
Then as long as you're all infected, that you'll never know.
Yeah.
And it won't.
It's
Yeah,
the same here.
I heard of this as one group of like teenagers that they went to Cabo or something, 28 of them, and they all tested positive when they got back.
Yes.
So I think what they should do is to basically put them in public service, you know, like press them into like, you know, washing floors in the hospital or something because they're so.
Writing J-meter scripts. That's what they should be doing.
Yeah, even worse. You have a choice. Clean the hospital floor or J-meter scripts.
J-meter scripts. There's not that much difference, you know.
Do you need to wear a mask when you do J-meter scripts?
Yeah.
I wear gloves.
It is not that extreme, right?
Well, it's certain protocols, you know, are just like if I get into sockets or any of the other sort of like trying to run selenium from JMeter, I mean, that's dirty. That's
You can catch it and end up liking him.
that is not right at all. Awesome.
Have a comment say, hey, leave JMeter out of this.
Yeah, that's fine. We'd like to pick on JMeter. We love to hate.
I mean,
Cool.
if you pick on something, it means you love it.
Yeah. Hey, at least I didn't say neoload scripts. You know? That's like it's being elevated. Like you've reached a level of deity if you're living in the neoload scripting world.
So Eduardo, so how is things going from Milan, from Italy?
Yeah, you guys are, it's bad there.
Yeah, the situation is quite bad here, but actually I'm home with my parents. I'm never home with my parents, so they are very happy. And my mom is doing a lot of Italian kitchen, so it's.
So that's
okay,
why you turned off your camera now.
Cover.
I got 5 kilos in 3 weeks, so I'm
Oh,
crazy.
wow. Lots of good pasta, I guess.
Yeah. Eduardo, how many times have you had to fix the internet for your parents? Are they pretty hip with internet, you know, like networking and that kind of stuff?
Yeah. My mother doesn't know the difference between Android, Chrome, Windows, Internet, Mozilla. It's everything is a mess. It's Internet. So yeah, I'm helping, supporting her to chat with her friends.
Yeah. I have to say that's a big shift as well. When I've gotten calls like I go out and make grocery delivery runs for the people in my neighborhood that are older or they're at risk, and so I kind of volunteer to head out and do that. But at the same time, I find now I get the call when the little thing pops up that says "Contact your system administrator." Like that's me now. Why is that me? I don't want that to be me. And so, Eduardo, I'm sorry, you're now the system administrator at your.
Yeah, but if my mother continue to make pasta, it's okay for me.
Oh, it's good. It's a payment. You'll fix the printer, no problem.
You're being well paid. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, there's two consequences of living too close to your parents during a long period of time. Either it's going to be forever. That's first option. The second option is that you're never going to see your parents anymore. So I don't know which situation you are at the moment, but that could be a consequence of that lockdown.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. I'm wondering what other things, if these like Stijn, you mentioned, if these are like an exception to the normal workload, what if this becomes the normal workload? How do we see things changing? Are we going to see patterns that now we should, that are opportunities to tune for a different way? Is it just about like remote users? What kinds of trends are we going to see, you think, platform-wise, if this is really sort of a much more long-term way of living and operating in the world?
Rather than in short term, I would like to add, many people will end up getting used to it, and companies that I saw a meme the other day, mentioning that what was more successful enabling the technology and CFO, CTOs, C-level suits, or coronavirus, which is making everybody adapt and try to get things rolling. And probably many companies that never thought of getting into remote working or doing it as standardized will now be a normal for them. And they would say, hey, I kind of liked it. Or some others that was like, I can't wait to get back to the office. But and that would bring much load.
I think the major advantage of the situation is that people who didn't do the digital transformation before this situation is going to do it. So basically, one of the argument to move to digital world
accelerate.
Obviously, the COVID-19.
Yeah,
for sure.
So, I think a lot of people who are
Wilson, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I think a lot of people, from what I've seen, is that that when this whole thing hit, or even before, there are some managers who says, okay, I don't have good enough people to be able to do remote. It really turns out that it's really the managers who are not able to manage properly, and that's really the realization finally, right? It's not blaming. Like for example, my team, we had no difference because we had the Jira, we had all of the with box notes that we're able to share information, and when somebody got sick, we looked at what they had, we knew what the exact status was, and people were able to jump in and take over. And that's really and the reason why we did that, because we already did that just for multi time zone that that we needed to do that in order to keep going on a 24-hour basis. It turns out that was really what was needed even for this work at home switch.
Yeah.
So I was just noting down some stuff here as well to see how this can benefit us. I hope for lots of companies this will actually put a lot of trust in their employees, like people that didn't work from home because actually the company was not really sure that they would actually do the work. They might see and might be even surprised that the work is still being done. So it will actually hopefully for some companies mean a culture shift from working at home to working remotely. And then I think this will benefit the cloud provider for sure. I mean, this really is a benefit for cloud providers if they do it well. This could benefit them hugely. And as well, I think that lots of companies will look at that APM toolings, that at least they can see what goes wrong when things go wrong. So for me, 3 things: trust, cloud, and APM, that I think that will actually profit from this all.
Yeah, I think the APM one is really going strong. We get some more and more questions about monitoring and especially APM because they have slowdowns or issues, but no idea why or what's happening. So yeah, and for cloud providers, of course, people shifting everything to the cloud.
Yeah.
I totally agree with that, because the past approach that used to be just do some automation, slam it to see where it's breaking or where it is not behaving, but it's with APMs, you have clear visibility of exactly where it's at. Should be the first step that you try. Otherwise, before on previous times, it was like a blind person with a stick just hitting with automations, trying to figure out where were the problems and why we were having those time downs.
It's also the impact, because if for most shops you are closed, and then the web shop is the only way to do business. So when that goes down, it's a lot of missed sales. So pinpointing the issue very quickly is key to get your business up and running, or keeping your business alive for some companies. So go ahead.
I wanted, if you want to finish your thought, because I wanted to bring up another topic. So if you want to finish your thought, then
I think I was going to say also it's going to impact any of the traveling consultants.
That's exactly what
Oh, Andy.
Oh, yeah.
And I heard this morning that just European airline companies lost 10 billion euros just to the lockdown.
Yeah, of course.
Just the European ones.
Yeah, but I think that. But Mark, to your point, I didn't even necessarily think about the consultants, even though that's obviously a big impact. You don't have to fly all the time everywhere. It's also all the events that we are flying to all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, if it turns out that if it turns out that the big events that they're now running virtual, whether it's Google who runs it virtual, Red Hat, if they actually work and people get a benefit out of it, why? I mean, as nice as it is, obviously as good as it is to socialize with people, because that's what we really, that's one of the reasons why we go there. But from a business perspective and from a learning perspective, virtual is much more efficient.
Business-wise, they will start saying like cheaper. Totally, it's going to be way cheaper than flying all of the people, food,
but
and
still, if you do a virtual conference, you need the right materials, probably
good infrastructure for it.
Yeah, well, probably fancy conferences will start to implement VR technology there. So more testing related to that. So it's a great. I think it's a great way of utilizing the new technology that we had in our hands that but were not very overconsumed. So there is a lot of options possible, I think, with the current situation.
I think. Go ahead.
Yeah, Andreas, I don't like it what you said.
Did we lost Stijn?
I think there have been
it's probably somebody's Netflixing or downloading something.
Your kids, tell your kids to stop.
He was insulting Andy, so the audio got cut.
It's Brian. So Brian did did everything to control it. Thanks. By the way, for those who's not, I just promoted Brian. So Brian is part of the Perfbyte team. He do Ask Perfbyte. So thanks, Brian, to be here.
Hi, thanks.
And by the way, at the beginning we were looking for a drummer because we were.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. I'm
because the kit's all set up. It's ready.
Oh, I can't show you mine. I can't turn on my video, but that's fine.
All right,
I got my kit in the other room right next to me.
Oh my God.
Oh. It's gonna be like
we'll
this
get
now.
some live music. Oh, yeah.
Can't even hear it.
It's very far.
Give it a second. It'll start soon. What?
But I just. All right, we're good. So I think two things will happen. One, we're all going to learn how to master OBS the way that Leandro has done to make his virtual capability much more entertaining and efficient. So will you have a Zoom masterclass, Leandro, on how to do what you do with the floating ghost senior performer? That would be really fun.
Now that you mention it, that would be interesting.
Oh, wouldn't it? But secondarily, Andy, to the mind synchronicity we were having there about travel, I think the inverse may happen, right? One, we'll all get our virtual game on. We'll have to be more effective in a virtual way doing webinars. I personally have been doing webinars since like 1998, 99. Early webinars teaching people how to do like load runner and WebLogic load testing. And there was so many more constraints to try to be effective in teaching performance or talking about performance, or just talking about anything in the virtual world, that influenced my in-person presenting and teaching tremendously, right? So the assumptions you make is, well, I'm standing at the front of the room, therefore everyone's going to listen to me. Like there are things we do if we're new to speaking, we've only done it in the physical world, not the virtual world. So I think some people will be pressured to actually be better presenters and better communicators in a virtual medium. And that's only going to turn around when we finally do get back into physical events and greetings, that their communication capability or their teaching capability will be even that much greater and improved. So that's my side thought. Did we get...
I took sorry to interrupt. I took the advantage to promote one of the attendees, Scott Stevens, who were asking a lot of questions since the beginning, and he makes a lot of great notes during all this.
Scott, who's being tortured by
Scott,
J-meter
welcome on
packets.
board. You can turn on your camera if you want. The mic is on, so you can interact with it directly.
Welcome, Scott. Well, we can't hear him, but we'll see.
I can hear you.
Yeah.
I think he's setting up his mic.
That could be.
Audio.
Brian Wilson is just sort of like a weird digital splash. Is that?
Well, I can't share my. It won't allow me to share my video. So.
Oh well, that's
The host has blocked me from sharing my video. Probably he's seen me in person before, so.
Make him a co-host.
He knew you were not wearing pants.
Yeah, that's totally what that means. But that's all right. You have a face for radio.
Hey, now you should do it.
Well,
It's
meanwhile, I wanted to.
Then you wanted to say something earlier when you got cut off.
Yeah, Stijn.
Oh yeah.
Because if you see the beautiful Neotys SPAC events happening all over the world in Santorini, I was saying maybe we shouldn't say that because the next one will be virtual and the next one will be virtual while we just enjoyed being there.
True.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Brian.
Yeah.
I don't say that. The only reason why we should stop traveling and meeting other persons is having zombies. I don't see the COVID-19 transforming people into zombies. So I'm a big zombie side fan. Board game for those who know where zombie side is. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that we're gonna after a few months everything will be okay.
Scott.
Welcome. How's the J-meter work going there, brother?
You don't have the audio. We don't hear you.
We cannot hear you.
We cannot hear you, Scott.
We want to hear that New Zealand accent.
Yeah, exactly.
First of all, I'm eager to hear where you're living, in the North Island or the South Island.
They don't have the internet in the South Island, do they?
It's the North Island, though.
Well, in New Zealand, they get all the experimental features of everything, as we've heard, right? From so one of the things we've learned from Gorenka Biedov is that and a lot of tech companies do this. They'll roll out the experimental features or new features to New Zealand first,
right?
Because it's a very small and isolated population, yet still very westernized, so they can get some feedback without people really hearing about them.
Right, and that's where orcs come from.
Yeah, and
well, that too.
New Zealand are very nice and gentle. They don't argue too much. And so if there is a big bug, they won't say too much.
You see that they don't even speak up.
Yeah.
Scott.
There is something to be said for.
To utilize your mic.
Yes.
How about now?
Yeah.
Oh, there you go.
Nice.
Great.
Nice. I'm working from home, so I've got my Linux set up here. So sometimes microphone settings change randomly.
Yeah.
Happens.
Yeah.
I know that.
So I guess one of the questions I asked on the forum, because I've been approached to do this a couple of times now, and usually it comes back from the client saying, oh, well, look, yeah, we don't have enough money to do this, which I suspect a lot of people are starting to regret right about now. And that's, we need to push load over our VPN. Just to see what happens when we've got a whole pile of people working from home. And the comment was made before that network testing is, and I definitely agree, a specialized area of performance testing. I'm wondering with this whether, if we sort of like take a Scott Moore approach and a Wilson Marr approach, that this is the time maybe for us to start expanding out past our comfort zones and actually start learning about, if we don't have any experience on how to do this, how do I best drive load over a VPN, either from a tools-based or a most cost-effective point of view? How do I look at somebody's overall architecture and point out to them, look, I think you've got problems here. One engagement with a smaller department here that's moving a lot of stuff to the cloud, that's all very well and good, but they neglected to understand that for the last 20 years, your network traffic's been going that way. And now you're pushing all of that up through this little internet gateway that's probably been there for however many years it's been there, and things just collapsed.
Mhm.
And I'm wondering if this is the part for us now to start really expanding out into some of those more networky VPN architecture kind of things. We've had our FPOS system fell over for about 20 minutes the day before our lockdown was announced. We've got online shopping carts and online vendors whose sites are collapsing. It's too late for performance testing for them now. They need diagnosticians to come in, whether that's through APN, whether that's through log parsing, to have a look at their applications and their networks as well to make sure it's getting in. So it's very interesting times, but it could be an opportunity for us as well.
Yeah, so I did, because a few years ago I had that request, not related to the virus, but it was for other opportunities. So I tried to build something around it. The main problem is that most of the libraries that you have, at least the one I found. So if you have any libraries to recommend, I would love to get your recommendation. Is that when you set up the VPN connections, you drive directly to your network card. So if you want to run 1,000 threads on a machine, then it means all those thousands of threads will have the same VPN connections. So you're not able to have individual connections per threads. I didn't find the trick yet. But I'm eager to find it because I'm fully aligned with what you said. It's not now we are in a critical situation, so people are asking for it. But before that, it was not the first time I had that request. So I fully align with you. I think Stijn is going to say something. I'm going to let Stijn answer, but we need to find the right technology for that. And I'm pretty sure that all the products that are in the market, especially in the load testing space, have the right SDK, the right technology to embed this type of testing. It's just I'm looking for the right cloud, the right technology to utilize that as a thread level, not have, because I don't see the value of having one server doing one VPN connections and then it's going to cost thousands of euros per hour just to run your test. Stijn, you want to say something?
Yeah, it's also a side remark on this. Is we haven't used the word DevOps yet, and I thought we need to use it today as well. DevOps, there you go. But with DevOps, you still see that you have silos. If you speak about networking guys that are specialized in other stuff, they should be involved also in the DevOps teams and also assisting with application performance, so that we are more in line when things like this occur. And now it's still, in my opinion, it's still happening on a different planet. And maybe I'm different than you guys, so I don't know if you are sharing the same idea there.
No, I think that's actually a pretty fair summary, Stijn. Seeing some of the projects here where the network guys get involved at the very end, and project says we're doing this, and the network guys say you're doing what now?
So this is why I like to work with Twan. So a few months back, Twan says, "Hey, I need an action that simulates some TCP traffic and UDP traffic." So you have it now, Twan. I built it for you guys, so why don't you use it? I'm so ashamed. I spent hours and days to do that, and you don't even use it.
It was a question related to creating this network traffic, and they ended up using a different solution, a really specialized from, I believe, something from Cisco. But it was for me, it was a great experience because I was talking to a whole new group of people or network guys, and those guys have so much experience and so much knowledge about that level, which we as performance testers, for me personally, didn't touch that much. Of course, I've been reading up more and more, but for me, it was sort of a blind spot. We knew about network switches, traffic, and when we hit the limit, but simulating VPN traffic, it's something completely different.
Just one quick thought, and maybe this is stupid because I don't know much about network performance or not enough. But Scott, your initial question that you put into the QA was like, shall we go from application performance to network performance? But then in the end, regardless the network, whether it's through VPN tunnels or whether it's a Wi-Fi or high speed anywhere, in the end you have a certain capacity, a certain bandwidth, and you run certain apps on it. So that means in the end, when you do application performance engineering, application performance optimization, you typically should also look at network consumption of your application for certain use cases, and then you can do
absolutely.
Right? I mean, so.
Yeah, but to add to that, I think if you know already that your company is utilizing 60% of the pipe, then if you start building a new app that will consume 30%.
Of course. But then it just becomes a network budget. Like you have a performance budget around response time and throughput. You have a capacity budget or a network budget where you say, well, my application can consume that much at a max or some contracts.
But Andy, I want to go back to that first point that I made. Then the network guys need to be involved in the applications as well.
Yeah,
and
of course.
Happens and they are not.
Yeah.
How many times I had to go to them and say, guys, do you know this is happening? Oh, no, this is not possible. And you say, if you know how much is used in the pipe, how many people that are performance testers know what is being used in the pipe?
Yeah, but it's also something strange happening because it's the first time we are talking about we have a network limit. The bandwidth is gone. It's completely consumed, and we see network traffic going up and up and up, and sites getting bigger and bigger. And Henrik, you showed many graphs about that on presentations, how sites are getting bigger and bigger, and it was never an issue. And we have a COVID virus, and all of a sudden we have all these network bandwidth issues for VPNs. So we're had the luxury that before this crisis we had enough bandwidth, but
it's like. Sorry, Mark, you go ahead.
Mark had a note, so I'll let you give your.
I was going to say, as one of the resident old guys in the room, I remember when clients were small and thin, and I remember when clients were really fat, and packets were really small, and then packets were really fat. And we have been through this multiple times. Not necessarily, this idea of a remote workforce. But the whole idea of the old R3, SAP R3 and the GUI, the SAP GUI was like, wow, it's incredibly thin. And then sure enough, over time, it just gets fatter and fatter and fatter. And they're like, well, let's just move it into the web. And our industry doesn't have, I would say, a disciplined approach to supporting on-premise fatness and remote thinness in a very disciplined way. It's kind of a random reactive, I guess we'll do it this way and solve the problem after the fact. So Scott, I think to your point is we're compensating and reacting instead of, there are some companies in their disaster plans or disaster recovery testing that said, what if, boom, everyone is out? And you may think of this in New Zealand where, suddenly half the ocean gets fracked and you got, Wellington is underwater, which is really, I never did jump off the dock. That was probably good.
And for what you're saying, Mark, I think also something that will turn all the applications even thicker or heavier, the coming of 5G as well will enable a lot of us working from home.
And we'll kill a bunch of birds, and infants won't grow to full size, and because we turned on all the magic bandwidth, and who knows what that. But yeah, exactly.
What that will bring.
It's a matter of interest. The closest I've got to this has been with Dynamics 365. Working directly with the network guys and stuff like that. And we did some testing out of that, and we plotted out the number of connections, bytes up, bytes down, all those good things. And you show it to the network guys, and they were absolutely horrified. And I was surprised because I was scripting off of this laptop, and I kept seeing all this stuff going up to Skype. And it's like, I don't have Skype on my laptop. And you just sit there with MITM proxy with the network guy behind you, say, so I'm sitting here literally doing nothing on D365 and look at this network traffic. Because their concern was always the bytes down.
Yep.
But with 365, once those bytes are down, it caches for what I thought 365 days, which I thought was a nice touch on Microsoft's part. I kind of enjoyed that. But just watching this constant stream of traffic going up, and not only was it chatty, but you also had chatty and chunky at the same time. And it's like, what? You know, seriously, guys, you know, what have you done? And all these
fat and chatty.
Yeah, exactly. And yeah, that's the closest I've got to actually touching on sort of like hybrid application-y, networking kind of stuff, because that was the key goal. That's how many connections are we likely to get on our firewall on the way out, and we're pretty much on the money, which was quite nice.
Cool. Henrik, you were going to say.
So I just want to because I'm looking at the time. So you initially had 1 hour to discuss. I know that we have lots of conversation, and I know for sure that if we keep this conversation, we can run it for 4 hours. I trust all you guys because I know you guys. And without going further, because we have a plan and stuff like this, I'd like to just conclude. So if anyone of which is panelist at the moment could drop a few sentences just to conclude this first pack meetup about the performance impact of lockdown, that would be just awesome. And if we want to continue discussions, it would be great. I think there was a lot of great discussion that happened today about the problems. We can definitely make a paper or something about it. So I'm pretty eager to see that. But yeah, let's start with Mark, which is on my left. Mark, do you have any few words to conclude?
I'm kind of with Stijn on 2 words: observe and DevOps, or your infrastructure teams. Get your monitoring game together in some way, shape, or form, because if you can't see it, you can't actually react to it effectively. So make sure you're thinking about that. Don't think about real people and real load in production, and make sure you're totally in touch with that. And then I would look at take a look at how your applications are utilizing firewalls and VPNs, and if any of them are not good citizens, like you've got some configuration, like Scott's saying. I think follow through on those kinds of things. Look for ways to make applications thinner and less chatty if there's any possible way to do that. Homegrown CDN would be another thing to look at. If you don't, you can do it specific to your company. You can use Varnish or a couple different solutions to do things like that. So a homegrown CDN, even a squid proxy would even help you do that. So that's what I would look for. And of course, be safe, stay healthy.
Andy?
Just one thing, I think a great opportunity for chaos engineering. Maybe from time to time, run your apps in a constrained environment and constraining it, for instance, by network bandwidth, and add this to your list of chaos monkeys.
Twan?
Get your monitoring game up. That's for me the biggest thing. Getting issues these times are pretty tough, but don't have a clear image of what's happening. It's even worse. Stay healthy. Don't get this I have this cute little Buddha bear. So keep in shape, otherwise you'll end up like yeah. No, I think we have interesting times which opened my eyes on how to look at load and how people would react on different situations. So it will definitely increase the quality of load testing for me and I guess for everybody. So take positive things out of this crisis.
Stijn?
Yeah, for me, I think this awful period will lead into a revolution, an acceleration in digitalization. That companies that haven't digitalized yet, they for sure will. So they will everyone will go online. For sure it will. And I hope that lots of people will also feel more connected with other stuff than IT and maybe more connected with family, friends and nature, even if it's in a digital way, and see the importance of life out of this period, because I think there are really bad things happening. And I wish everyone a healthy few weeks. And hopefully this will be ended soon.
Scott?
If you are monitoring, please make sure that you actually look at the monitoring. Don't just have it running in the background and hope for the best and have a look at it tomorrow when something goes wrong. You know, actually have a guy with a monitor whose job is to sit there and look at the monitoring, and if something looks squirrely, then, you know, maybe do something about it rather than trying to triage it after it happens.
Observation, Scott. Observation.
Yeah, I know.
Flesh-based automation, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if that graph goes weird, call Andy.
Yeah.
Wilson? Brian?
Yeah, I'm actually curious to see how something unfolds that I don't think has really been discussed much yet. That would be, we talked about VPN and employees having bandwidth issues with VPN, but we didn't talk about customers on people's sites having bandwidth issues on VPN. So if you think everyone's connecting through their corporate VPNs, which may or may not be overloaded, they're now coming to your site to make a purchase, and you still have your old bloated page. What does that do to the performance for that end user? And, you know, although it's not back-end performance, it's not load-based performance necessarily, I think it's something on the performance field we should start to observe to see what's happening there, right? And the place I usually go to is, if we think about what always happens during the Super Bowl, the smart companies strip down their site to get rid of all the junk and clutter. And is this a trend we're going to have to see, going back to Mark's point earlier about things getting bloated or not? Might this also shift? So I'm really interested to see in the coming weeks if there are any if there's any fallout from that for users, not just employees.
Yeah, a lack of route diversity. That would be the thing. We're not going into the capillaries of the system, the little itty bitty home last mile. Everything's going much more direct, homogeneously routed. So lack of route diversity. Go study RIP, IP, and RIP. So your two protocols to actually study route diversity. And DNS plays a huge role in that, which is why if you look at what the guys at the 1111, the DNS optimization, you remember that?
Cloudflare?
Cloudflare, yeah.
It's Cloudflare, yeah. They've done some really, really cool stuff. And our friend Kirill, who worked for Google, did a bunch of DNS optimization that helps increase route diversity, which spreads out. Anyway, that's a brilliant point, Brian. Who knew that you were so smart about performance?
Hey, I'm just looking for everything to go back to the GeoCities Angelfire days. So
Metacrawler, woohoo!
Thanks for your three of yours, because you have three Brians talking to the camera. So thanks for all of three of yours. Leandro?
Everybody has mentioned a lot of the APMs. I totally agree. The first step is to know your performance, to have visibility, to understand alerts, to send the message, as Scott mentioned, to get the message to who needs to be aware of it as soon as possible when something happens or when something is about to happen, because several times you can see the trend starting to rise and you can always act way before. So I would say everyone to be more reliant on APMs, on the type of information that they can get from them. And second, I would say all these forced digital transformation that is happening is, to my perspective, a little bit becoming like what Mark and James always say on the Black Friday specials, is like elephants in crystal shops where we are the crystal manufacturers. This is going to be a big event for us performance engineers people. We will get a lot of more work. More companies will be aware of this need of extra capacity. And we want to make sure that they will be able to do business even in these increased load situations. So, and this is going to be the fact from now on, because even as we return to some sort of normal, I don't think we will ever return to it in terms of performance and the amount of people working from home. This is going to increase. This is going to be the before and after coronavirus number of people working from home. And I think also to close, I would say back like everyone, stay home, stay safe, enjoy all the TV shows and series without loading your environments too much, and please stay safe, safe distance, and thank you and adios.
Wilson?
Yeah, this is our shining hour, right? I had a VP call me the other day and says, you know, Wilson, we're going to call you the Oracle from here because, you know, you warned us, we didn't listen to you, and we would be a lot better off if we did. And so I think that there are going to be many more positions available for performance engineers in the future because of the situation. So one of the things I'm doing with CMG now is figuring out how we can train the next generation of performance engineers. And I'd like to enlist, you know, all of you guys to make that happen, and, you know, and do it very quickly. Thank you.
Makes total sense, Wilson. Thanks for that, because I think I'll probably make that topic our third theme for the meetup: how we can train performance engineer. I know it's a complex one, but I think we need to cover that for sure. So I'm fully aligned with your note.
Good.
Eduardo, do you want to make a final conclusion? I will make some few words after you, but you want to make some notes?
Yeah, I totally agree with you guys, and I think that also real user monitoring or end user monitoring is really crucial here, also to pinpoint if the issues are at a network level or at an application level. In Italy, for example, we have an increase in the traffic on the central backbone of more or less 45%. So now the central network processing unit in Milan is processing more than 1 terabit of data traffic for Italy, at the point that the government is asking Google and Netflix to reduce the default quality for the videos. So I think it's really important here, if we want to support our customers, to tell them if their issues are occurring at a network level or at an application level. So just this point for me.
Thanks, Eduardo. So I'd like to conclude. So first of all, I would like to add my notes and then finalize this first meetup. So I would like to first say that all the companies that did the digital transformation, I think they're still taking advantage and making business. So they're not fully out of business. The shops, local shops that didn't do that transition, at the moment, they're pretty sure they're just suffering from the lockdown. So I think even for small shops, it makes sense to start having an approach of delivering or taking orders remotely or whatever. So it's an interesting situation where I think the way we deliver business is going to change in the next coming weeks. And performance is obviously a really big a pillar to make that business successful. So don't forget about performance. We talked about a lot of VPN, so let's figure out a way to bring VPN testing in a more smarter way. So this is could be something we can talk about it. So I'd like to thank to all the different attendees, all the pack members, so Mark, Andy, Twan, Leandro, Stijn, who left, and Twan as well. So Twan I almost mentioned, but Wilson, I'm so glad that you just connected. Thanks to that. Eduardo as well. Brian, thanks to be there as well. I think you made a lot of great notes. So thanks you to be there as well. And Scott, thank you so much to be there, because I think you make a lot of great notes, and I think the discussions went on the right direction thanks to you. So great. That's our first meetup. So next week we will have another meetup, and I know, so unfortunately Stijn is not there, but I see Andreas connected here. We started the conversation in Santorini, and we mentioned about performance engineering, driving DevOps, and performance as a self-service. It requires process. You cannot do everything from yourself. You have several squad teams, several dev teams. It's very complicated to do everything. How to bring the dev teams in speed on that level, how they can analyze. So there is a real process to set up within the organization. So that will be the next theme for our next pack meetup next week. So I'm really eager, and I'm just cannot wait until the next 7 days to hear about your thoughts, because I think we can bring a lot of great things here by discussing together. So thanks again, everyone. It was a real honor to be with you for the first pack event. And I didn't see your drinks. So I mentioned tea, I mentioned coffee, I mentioned beer. I see that a couple of beers are being drinked everywhere here. So guys, bring your drinks. That's the theme, guys. Thanks. And one again, we're going to talk about performance. So stay tuned. Next week, we're going to talk about performance. And adios in the name of Señor Performo.
Muchas gracias, everybody. Have a good one. Adios.
Yeah. Cheers.
Bye-bye.
Ciao.